How did Michael Landon manage to cope with his tough childhood? Why did he die so young? Is it true that he died because of a chemical laboratory? In this report, we will discuss that and many other topics. Michael Landon was an icon of American television whose legacy remains important in the entertainment industry. He was an actor, producer, director, and screenwriter. He made every project he participated in a success, whether behind the scenes or as the lead in the series. As an actor, he had iconic roles. He was Little Joe in Bonanza, Charles Ingalls in Little House on the Prairie, and finally, Jonathan Smith in Highway to Heaven. His ability to create unforgettable characters and convey authentic emotions through the screen almost became a trademark. Despite his TV success, Michael's personal life was often challenging. He was married 3 times and had 9 children. According to multiple accounts, he was known to be a loving family man, contrasting with his difficult childhood experiences. In the early 90s, Landon began experiencing leg pain that he initially attributed to work fatigue. Unfortunately, it was later discovered that he had pancreatic cancer, a disease that consumed him on July 1st, 1991, the day Michael Landon died. I would like you to tell me, if you know Michael Landon, how did you meet him? Some of you will surely say Bonanza, others Little House on the Prairie, another Highway to Heaven. I want to read all your anecdotes with this actor. How was it? You met him. With which series you met him? What can you tell me about him? I want to read it here below, and I also invite you to leave suggestions for possible future videos on this channel, and also to subscribe, leave your like, and activate notifications right now. So hit like right now and now. Yes, let's start. The last days of Michael Landon were extremely hard. His body, which in his golden times had been strong and athletic, was slowly shutting down due to pancreatic cancer, which had already spread to his liver and lymph nodes. It was inoperable, and the doctors had given him a terminal prognosis. Despite this, Michael fought until his last hours. On May 21st, 1991, a month and a half after being diagnosed, he underwent surgery to remove a blood clot that threatened to cost him his left leg. The operation succeeded, but the news wasn't fully encouraging. The cancer was advancing rapidly, and Landon's body was going to collapse at any moment. It was at that moment when Melissa Gilbert, who had acted as his daughter in the Ingalls family and was his friend off-screen, went to visit him. When she entered the room where Landon was, she couldn't help but feel a deep sadness seeing him so fragile. He had lost a lot of weight, his hair was white, and his skin had turned pale. Despite everything, his optimistic spirit remained until the end. On the eve of his death, he told his friend and colleague James Arnes that he had seen the proverbial light that helps people transition from this world to the next. He even managed to visualize his own mother, who had died many years before. But let's not get ahead of ourselves. To better understand his outcome, we need to start from the beginning. Michael Landon was born on October 31st, 1936 in New York under his real name, Eugene Morris Horowitz. Eugene had a complicated life from a young age. In school, he was constantly teased about his roots, as his mother was Catholic and his father was Jewish. However, his unhappiness was not limited to school but also extended to his home. His mother suffered from psychiatric disorders and had attempted to take her own life on several occasions, which deeply worried the future actor and prevented him from fully enjoying those years that are supposed to be filled with fun. During a family vacation on the coast, Eugene had to rescue his mother from drowning. Beyond saving her, she swallowed a lot of water and ended up vomiting, which became one of the worst memories of his life, causing him trauma for the following years. In addition, his mother's attempts to take her own life affected his health, causing him to suffer from nocturnal enuresis, that is, he wet the bed while sleeping. Unfortunately, his mother, far from offering understanding, did not realize the origin of the problem and hung the wet sheets in the window to shame him. As Eugene matured, he distanced himself from his mother, but had to return home after a severe motorcycle accident that nearly disfigured his face. Such was the impact that he had to undergo facial reconstruction. Fortunately, the work done was excellent. He never thought at that moment that he was going to become one of the most important heartthrobs of television at the time. In 1954, he finished high school. Thanks to a sports scholarship obtained at University of California, Los Angeles, he moved to California to continue his university studies. At that time, Eugene broke the javelin throw record, which opened the doors for him to obtain another scholarship, this time from the University of Southern California. Clearly, his path was marked for success in that discipline. And so he said goodbye to his parents and set off in search of more medals and more trophies. The scholarship guaranteed his education and a chance to keep excelling in sports. However, his dream didn't last long due to a bad fall that resulted in the tearing of his arm ligaments. This injury ended his scholarship and his future as an athlete. Again, everything turned dark for him. In those moments of total uncertainty, he met the love of his life, Dudie Levy Fraser, who became his first wife after they got married in 1956. The couple had 3 children, and there was no lack of love in the family, but there was a lack of money. And Michael then thought about it for a long time. What could he do to bring the much-desired plate of food to the table? And the answer appeared soon, almost like a magic trick. Eugene entered the entertainment world by doing commercials and small supporting roles in movies. However, there was a problem. He didn't like his name. He thought about changing it and remembered how his mother once opened the Bible and put her finger on any verse to know what God was telling her. He mimicked this method, but instead of the Bible, he used a phone book. He opened the guide and put his finger on a name, Michael Landon. He spoke the name and knew it was his. In this way, Eugene Maurice Horowitz was left behind along with all his traumas. However, some battles awaited him ahead. As Michael, he continued working on what he could, and thus managed to survive by accepting small roles as a supporting actor or as an extra. In 1959, Michael's career took a radical turn thanks to his role in the successful series Bonanza, which stayed on air for 14 years and granted him international fame. To understand Landon's career, it's crucial to explain the phenomenon of this unique series. In the second half of the 50s, color television was beginning to become popular in the United States, but the content offer was scarce and of low quality. The National Broadcasting Company network was at that time owned by the electronics company Radio Corporation of America. Radio Corporation of America wanted to sell televisions, and the best way they found to do it was not through advertising, but by offering a service. Following that plan, the producer and screenwriter David Dorto was tasked with finding ideas for an hour-long program where color was a fundamental element, considering that at that time, the Western was the audience's favorite genre. The decision was clear. The debut of Bonanza came on September 12, 1959, but it was not well received by the audience. It took a full season and the inclusion of guest figures for it to work. After several cancellation threats, the audience finally connected with the series. When Bonanza became a hit, not only were new seasons planned, but advertising also began to be more sought after. The decision successfully sold televisions and more. Revenue increased in direct proportion to the rating, making Bonanza a great business for everyone involved, especially for the actors. Sometime later, when the economic prosperity that Bonanza had given him was a fact, Landon had to fight against his addictions. Alcohol and tranquilizers accompanied him for several years. However, that did not extinguish his passion for the show. His ability to observe and learn led him to get involved in the creative process of the series. He thus contributed to the writing, even directing several episodes. However, after 14 years, the bonanza was over for Bonanza. During this period, Landon separated and found love again. After his failed first marriage, he married Marjorie Lynn Noah, with whom he had 4 children. Landon and Marjorie's relationship ended in 1980, after being together for several decades. His children partially inherited their father's love for the screen. One of his daughters ventured into the world of show business, playing the character of Aita Plum in the series Little House on the Prairie, although she later decided to become a clinical psychologist. Another one of his sons chose to pursue a career in the entertainment industry and has been recognized for his work as a writer, producer, and director, particularly for the Hallmark movie and television series When Calls the Heart. His children continue to be loved and remembered by many to this day, just like their father who never stood still and always sought to reinvent himself, as we will see next. While Landon was out of work, he wasn't worried because he knew he was going to stay in the business. His confidence materialized in 1974 when he created the popular series Little House on the Prairie, based on a series of novels. In the series, Landon played the main character, Charles Ingalls, a model American who quickly won over the audience with his kindness and nobility. Landon had complete artistic control over his shows. Far from slow, he put a great emotional load on his character, which allowed him to design scenes to show off his physique and generate emotion in the viewers. Despite the negative criticism for his sensitive episodes, Landon stated that his goal was to make people laugh and cry, so that watching television would not be a passive activity. That's how he succeeded with the singles until 1983. Then Landon continued with his next project, Highway to Heaven, which focused on helping people overcome their problems through faith. Again, with the power of his characters, he chose to play the angel Jonathan Smith, who helped people find their way back to the light. He had this idea in mind thanks to a tragedy experienced with his daughter. 10 years earlier, in 1973, the little girl had suffered an accident that took her 2 years to recover from. And from there, this other success was born. However, Landon's decision to pour his family experience into a fiction affected his marriage, resulting in an imminent divorce. Michael didn't wait long to start a new relationship, this time with Cindy Clarico, a makeup artist 20 years younger, with whom he had 2 children. Despite the ups and downs in his personal life, the actor continued to be an iconic figure in American television and left a lasting legacy in the entertainment industry. While Michael was being offered a lot of projects in both movies and series, death approached his life, so he had to focus on one thing: on living. The addictions in Michael's life played a very bad trick on him. At 54 years old, he was diagnosed with pancreatic cancer, and days later they confirmed that due to metastases, the liver and lymph nodes were also compromised. All he could do was await his end in the best possible way. 3 days later, Michael Landon decided it was time to announce that he was suffering from a very advanced stage of the disease. Among his words, he left many clear messages, but the phrases that still hang in the air were, "Two things can happen to me. I can win or I can lose, and I am prepared for both." Although he received chemotherapy treatments, the prognosis was discouraging. Despite it all, he remained calm. He believed having a good sense of humor was fundamental in that aspect. Simultaneously, he maintained the flame of constant struggle that always characterized him. On May 21, 1991, Landon was successfully operated on for a blood clot. But afterwards, his health was never the same, and so our story returns to the beginning. On July 1, 1991, Michael Landon died at the age of 54 at his home in Malibu due to a generalized failure in his body. His estate at that time reached $100 million. The funeral was held privately to avoid media attention per the family's wishes. However, information leaked and some people approached the farewell. Although there was media presence, only helicopters took images of the ceremony. After forming such a strong bond over the years on the series, Michael's family and the Ingalls family producer asked Melissa Gilbert to give a speech at the ceremony. Melissa had brought Laura Ingalls to life in the fiction. While she was overwhelmed by the task, she assumed she had to do it. Melissa prepared everything she had to say, and on the day of the event, she showed up with her husband to say goodbye to one of her best friends. She would even go so far as to say that Landon was almost like a father to her. She waited for her moment to speak, and when she was called, she became extremely nervous. She climbed onto the raised platform with a huge lump in her throat. She looked at everyone present, but her gaze stuck to one person who gave her peace. That person was the President, Ronald Reagan. Melissa focused on speaking only to him, and thus was able to say her words without crying. A report has recently been published on the possible triggers of the disease that caused the death of Michael Landon more than 30 years ago. The research focused on the proximity of the set of the famous series Little House on the Prairie to the Santa Susana laboratory, located just 15 miles away. According to the California Department of Toxic Substances Control, in 1959 there was a partial collapse of a nuclear reactor at the aforementioned laboratory. The series was filmed for 9 years at this location, which has led to speculation about whether exposure to radiation and environmental pollution could have been a determining factor in Landon's illness. Scientists have discovered that the Santa Susana laboratory was the site of the worst radioactive disaster in United States history, and that years of contamination had caused a cancer epidemic in the area. According to one of the forensic pathologists involved in the investigation, the studies concluded that environmental pollution was responsible for up to 2,000 cancer-related deaths and led to a 60% increase in lung, bladder, kidney, liver, blood, lymph nodes, upper digestive tract cancers, among others. It's possible we may never know if Michael Landon's death was caused by these laboratories' mistakes. But what we do know is that his legacy in the entertainment industry is inexhaustible. In all the series he worked on, wrote under producer auspices, he left an indelible mark, a mark that will probably last for a few more decades. And that's the story of Michael Landon. I hope you found this story interesting, which we were telling today. We are reviewing the lives of several television artists from the 60s, 70s, 80s. So if you have suggestions regarding this, you can leave them here below in the comments. We will be reading everything you put. Also, I invite you to leave your like, subscribe if you have not done so yet, and to activate notifications. I am going to leave a couple of videos here for you to continue doing marathon. And with nothing more to say, I say goodbye. My name is Magnum Mephisto, and we will surely see each other in the next one. Goodbye. Exploration 10, my first book, is now available in all bookstores. I leave you the link below so you can get it in physical format and in ebook.